AI can make decisions, but there's something about intuition, an instinct that AI doesn't have, that humans do have, which is deeper than our cognitive thinking. And often we forget, here's the thing, that we think we need to be better thinkers. No, we don't need to be better thinkers. There's something beyond thinking. When we have a quiet mind, when we're not thinking, our soul, our intuition, that's something deeper. That's something humans have that no AI or no robots are ever going to have. But I see too many leaders operating from a headspace, a thinky space, which is a bit like acting like an AI, looking for AI answers rather than actually connecting at that deeper level. And in fact, you can't lead without connection. You can't educate someone without connection. Connection has to come first.
Welcome to the Conscious Leadership Revolution podcast, where conscious leaders unite to unlock their highest potential so we can change the way the game is being played. Welcome to the Conscious Leadership Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Susan Hobson, flying solo. Tracy is somewhere in Europe. I believe she's in Portugal this week. So that's right. It's just me and my friend Russell Davis, who I'm so excited to introduce you all to. I can hardly wait to dig into his backstory. He is very much a heart-centric, conscious leader like myself. Russell's helping leaders and CEOs, as well as founders, reconnect with the clarity, confidence, and purpose. Executive coach, past therapist, which I can't wait to dig into, and host of the You Unleashed podcast. Ooh, Russell, I love that name. Just a little bit about Russell. In his description, this is something that I want to highlight because it's definitely where I want to go. He says the problem isn't strategy for leaders. It isn't a lack of skills. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of how human experience is actually created. And once that clears, everything changes. Russell, I'm so excited to have you on the show. Thank you for being here, my friend.
It's amazing to be here. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So, Russell, let's go all the way back now. As I said, I would love to do. And let's rewind the game tape here a little bit. You used to be a therapist, and I'm just so curious as to how you parlayed that into executive coaching.
Great, yeah. So I spent 17 years in a corporate career and was very successful in my corporate career, fast rising up the ladder. But I always felt something missing. And we actually went into a fertility journey, 10 years of fertility, my wife and I. And it was actually 8 years into that journey, I hit rock bottom. And I hadn't realized how much I was living I'll be happy when all my life. And the next thing was having a baby. So as a kid, it was I'll be happy when my mum's happy. My mum was very super strict. I mean, she became alcoholic, she very unpredictable. So I was trying to work out the rules of who I needed to be to keep her happy, to feel safe, to feel loved. I became a classic people pleaser. And I hadn't recognized how much I was a classic people pleaser, and to the extent where what I wanted was irrelevant. It's what I thought I needed to be or who I needed to be to please others, to avoid rejection. And actually, in a lot of corporate careers, what I experienced, that does you quite well. You float up the ladder because you're a yes man. People like you. You don't rock the boat. But it brings a level of dissatisfaction because I wasn't able to make a big impact or use my creativity because I was quashing myself. In fact, a colleague of mine said that he said I was amazing. I could get on with the CEO, the directors, or someone on the shop floor, and I get on with everyone. It's a very large organization. He said, you're like a chameleon. You mold yourself to whoever's you're in front of you, which is fabulous. He said it as a compliment. But I said to him, yeah, but who am I? Who am I in all that? I had no idea who I was. I do believe it's great to create connection and rapport. That's really important, but there was no sense of me. So the fertility journey really highlighted that I'll be happy when, I'll be happy when. And I went on my own kind of personal development journey, my own kind of therapeutic journey to realize, yeah, I had, I guess, low self-confidence. And it was my relationship with myself that was stopping me getting clarity to what I really wanted in life and living life true to my heart and my soul. And the first thing I recognized was I need to find a career that's aligned to me. The job I was good at it. It was very well paid. It wasn't really particularly stressful, so I was very good at it. But that's something missing. So I walked away deciding I need to find something more me. I couldn't bear the thought of being on my deathbed and not having gone on that journey, that adventure to find something more me. And then I found this therapy training and I did it just as fun, pure fun, follow my bliss became my mantra to guide me in that stage of life. And I wanted to find out more about me and how I work. So I did this therapy course, which included NLP and other aspects, purely for fun. It was amazing to study something purely for joy and fun. It was a 12-month course, and about halfway through, I suddenly realized, oh, I think I found what I'm meant to be doing. I think I'm better using this to help others find who they're meant to be, that connect to their truth. And soon after I qualified, I started practicing as a therapist, and then very quickly did a coaching qualification and moved more into coaching. But to be honest, it depends who I'm in front of. Most people call it coaching, but when I'm with someone, is it therapy? Is it coaching? Who knows? Who cares really? Some people might have a hung up about the word therapy. Maybe not so much in the US, but in the UK they do more. But call it therapeutic coaching. It's all blended. I use whatever I need in that moment to help that person with what they need in that moment.
I can see why I called you in now. So much alignment right off the draw, and
So there's a lot in
so
there.
many questions downloading. But I think the place I want to start naturally in my curiosity is I'd like to just start by anchoring into what we feel conscious leadership means. And I want to like really talk about this in regards to this point of alignment that you and I share in and around self leadership. I get a lot of pushback when I bring leaders into a group training environment to develop them. And I always start with the entry point known as self leadership. That's actually what called me to NLP in the first place, right? Is to really understand the mental models that I was running on that really were impacting and influencing the way I was governing decisions, like being a people pleaser. I had no
Mm,
idea that that was such
mm,
severe self-sacrifice, I think,
mm.
until I actually got into my NLP studies. So I'm curious because, yeah, the first point I want to dig into is how would you define conscious leadership? How do you conceptualize that?
I think it's about being conscious of our way of being, the sense of being we're bringing to the role, not what we do, not what we say, the strategy, the vision. It's our sense of being. It's about being consciously aware of that, our state of being we're bringing into it. It's a bit like they say as a parent, and we did become a parent after 10 years, but they say being a parent is not what you say, it's what you do that makes a difference. But actually, it's bigger than that. It's not even what you do, it's what you believe about yourself is what your children pick up on. So if you have a lack of self-confidence, they're going to pick up on that and they maybe develop that themselves, that kind of mirroring. I think it's recognizing as a leader, it's our relationship with ourselves and being more conscious of that is helps us to be more conscious of the humans we're leading. It's a soul to soul connection, heart to heart, human to human. It's being conscious of that connection more than the heady technical stuff. So, for me, conscious leadership is a heart to heart connection. So, it's connecting to our truth. It has to start with us, connection to ourselves, our true self, our heart, being consciously aware of that and aware how that impacts. We can't not influence people, but making sure that influences people in a more positive way.
I love it. Yeah, because I feel like the one thing that you and I definitely share is this like thinking about the difference between a human doing and a human being. And we were talking off air before we jumped on in regards to how we share the belief that this really is kind of the assignment, right? That of AI arriving, of future generations coming into the workforce, that we know as parents we can't
Mm,
lead unconsciously
mm,
because of all the things that you just said. And
mm.
then we're using words like soul and heart, and we're talking about therapy again in the context of a leader's development. So, can you just break down? I'd love to hear your perspective in terms of where all of that fits into modern day leadership development
Mm.
and training here in 2026.
I think it's recognizing it's interesting say on LinkedIn. For a while, I really struggled to post on LinkedIn. It was my part of me scared of what people may think. And I realized actually there's a part of me trying to communicate from as a coach to a leader. But that's not what I do. And I realized that's not what I do. I want to talk to the human in the role. That's who I'm speaking to. That's who I'm connecting with in my sessions when I'm with someone or leading someone. And that's what I do in everything I do, including posting on LinkedIn. And it's realizing in leadership, it's a human leading a human. It's going beyond the role. Yes, you have a role, you have a status. There's an organization diagram, but it's all humans. And often we forget in the work environment that we were dealing with humans, not resources, not robots, not assets. They're humans. And how do we connect at that human level? And I think with AI, it's becoming even more important. There's something about human consciousness that I don't think AI is ever going to fully replicate. And it's definitely not replicating it now. AI can make decisions, but there's something about intuition, an instinct that AI doesn't have, that humans do have, which is deeper than our cognitive thinking. And often we forget. Here's the thing that we think we need to be better thinkers. No, we don't need to be better thinkers. There's something beyond thinking. When we have a quiet mind, when we're not thinking, our soul, call it your intuition, that's something deeper. That's something humans have that no AI or no robots are ever going to have. But I see too many leaders operating from a headspace, a thinky space, which is a bit like acting like an AI, looking for AI answers rather than actually connecting at that deeper level. And in fact, you can't lead without connection. You can't educate someone without connection. Connection has to come first. And
Mhm.
that's a soul to soul, heart to heart connection. You know, when you talk to someone, you feel deeply connected to them. You really get a sense of what they mean beyond their words. That's that connection you really need to lead. And often in the workplace, we ignore that. We think that the org structure or being in a work environment is different to connecting to a human outside of work.
Yeah, it's I think why leaders live in their heads so much is because of that disconnection from their souls or their being or their
Mm,
intuition, however you want to think
mm,
about that, right? And a leader who likes to manage from their head is obviously leading from their parts, and they're trying to
yeah,
control
yeah,
the outcomes outside
yes.
of them. And ultimately, where that roots back is because they don't trust
It's
themselves.
exactly that. It's a fear place. It's a place of fear of not trusting themselves, not trusting they're going to be okay, whatever happens. And that was kind of my personal story, that fear I'm not going to be okay unless I achieve this, get good grades, get my degree. It's almost trying to prove myself and prove I'm worthy. But that's from a place of fear. It's a lack of trust that I am worthy for who I am. I've got nothing to prove. And from that space, we show up more fully. From that space, we access our innate clarity, resourcefulness, wisdom. We show up in a much better way. But all that stuff is innate. You don't have to think your way to clarity and creativity and answers. They come
Mhm.
to us and we stop trying so hard. And I see too many leaders basically trying too hard out of
Mhm.
fear, out of not trusting something deeper, maybe
Mhm.
trying to prove themselves. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, the culture breeds that. That's why a culture change has to come from the top, because often you see like breeds like, and you see
Mhm.
these thinky, very kind of competitive type leaders breeding other ones. And actually, there's a for me, mate, call it a better, more effective way of leading, which may be in some ways softer, but doesn't mean you'll be a pushover. In fact, when you're got a quiet mind, you have stronger boundaries. You can say things with more gravitas. You have more authority because you're coming from something deep within you. You're not coming from this heady space or this bossy space or pulling rank because you're the boss. It's a lot of that I think is fear and insecurity, to be honest. Which is why I think therapy is actually needed in the workplace because a lot of what I see of boss type leadership is created by fear and insecurity.
I think that's my favorite part of getting the privilege and opportunity to work with the leader at the helm
Yes,
because we know that model carries the most weight and that cascades the ripple effect, right, of energy into that locker room,
100%.
into that
Yeah.
environment, right? And so we know that the state that the leader is leading from and governing from is contagious socially.
Yes.
It's a
That's what attracts me to leadership. I mean, I have a vision. I believe we come into the world what I call inside out. So a baby is so connected to their soul, they're grounded, they're not in their head. They're just so present. As long as they're fed and watered, they're just fully present. Look at little toddlers. They just spend 90% just being content. No comparison to others, no expectations. They learn to walk, learn to talk, and do all sorts of amazing things. We're designed to create. We are creative beings. But then we go through life, we pick up other people's expectations, their fears, education system, society. We get contaminated by unhelpful stuff that sometimes sticks, unfortunately. But I have a vision. I'd love to see an inside out world where inside out babies stay inside out rather than get contaminated by this outside inness. You're okay if you get a good degree. You're okay if you do this. That reinforces an outside inness. And that's my vision for the world. And I think leadership is key to that in a way, because as you say, a leader impacts so many people in an organization. I do believe conscious leadership can change the world. It changes people from the inside out, not just in their workplace, but who they are as a being. So I do believe it's not just, I believe it can help the company be more successful, absolutely. But what I'm so passionate about this because it goes beyond that. It helps people be more content in themselves, more fulfilled in themselves. I think it can change the world.
Woof. I totally agree. The revolution has begun, which is why I decided to pivot this platform into the space of conscious leadership, because I honestly
Mm,
think like that is why AI is arriving is because we don't trust ourselves. It's because we are not embodied in our beings at the helm, right? We
yeah,
just don't trust that. But
yeah,
what a deficit in our human potential, right? Because when we don't trust ourselves, like you're saying, that's where we
yeah,
have to go outside to get our needs
yeah,
met by the world. That's where we give our power
yeah,
away to the world. And then ultimately, that's where the world has power over us.
yeah,
And we
yeah,
know that that stifles creativity and adaptation and all the things we're going to need to innovate as human beings who are created for the
yeah,
purpose of
yeah,
creation, right?
yeah,
But
totally.
we can't be in our creative capacity if we're going
Mm,
outside in because like we said, it's
yeah,
led by insecurity. We have to go
mm,
inside to the helm first,
yes,
meaning that we actually have to see ourselves as the
yeah,
authority, right? And
yeah,
take our power back. Thank you very much.
yeah,
Once we become adults, so that we actually can then start to come back home to our intuition, that place and space inside of all of us human beings that just
yeah,
knows
yeah,
and therefore can show up fully present and available to the energies that are right present in our environment in terms of our people or our problems or our challenges, aka our opportunities. And being able to really surrender to that process is how we step into our creative flow.
100%. And it is that being present. If you've got a busy mind, you're not being present. And I think if you look at when computers came in, it automated a lot of repetitive processes and maybe took a lot of jobs away, but it elevated people to the information age where now in the workplace, everyone in a workplace has to think about something because if it doesn't require thinking, it's been automated by a machine or a computer in the past. Now AI is taking away some of the cognitive thinking, but it can't take away that sense of deeper presence that has to come from presence and that deeper clarity and quality of thought that only we can do, but only when we're present. And that busy mind stops us being present, that overthinking, that trying too hard. And we create when we're present. So you look at toddlers, they're just fully present, lost in whatever they're doing, creating whatever they're creating. We can't create. When we're in our busy mind, we're not creating. We're just worrying. We're just
Mm-hmm.
going over things. We're not actually creating.
Mm-mm. Rinse and repeat of the
Yes.
autopilot, right? Which
Yeah.
again is what I can't wait to. I'm just like you, so fascinated to see how this disruption is going to land for us human beings. I'm curious what you're seeing in the trenches, but yeah, there's a lot of anxiety in the ethers about this
Yeah.
unknown.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I always say, not because I'm a masochist, but congratulations, the disruption has begun, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I think that that's kind of how the universe shows us when we're out of alignment with our being, when we're out of
yeah,
alignment with the
very true.
assignment that our being came here to
Yeah,
fulfill,
yeah.
right? From a purpose perspective.
I totally agree. Even personally, I wouldn't wish a 10-year or even 2-year, 1 year. I support some because, we're part of a group of a lot of people on this planet. I mean, people don't realize how many couples suffer with infertility in silence. So I give part of my time to support couples on that journey. And I wouldn't wish a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, we had 10-year journey, infertility journey on anyone. But I am truly thankful for our fertility journey because it did wake me up. It did help me see I was living as a victim. I was blaming life, blaming situations for my experience, and wasn't realizing I was creating it myself. My own lack of self-confidence, self-worth, my people pleasing was keeping me stuck, was keeping me drifting. And I was blaming situations for my experience, blaming life, God, the universe, not realizing it was my victim mindset was doing that. And yeah, I'm so thankful that I had an opportunity to wake up and change the course of my life in that way. And that, in fact, it changed my let go of tension in my body, it changed my biology. We went on to have a child naturally. So I do believe it changed even my fertility. But it is that kind of wake up call. And I do think this is a massive opportunity. I think some organizations are seeing that. IKEA, they laid off a lot of people from their help desk because it's been automated by AI, but they didn't let them go. They retrained them as interior designers. They added an extra level of quality and service to because see what people have wanted. So they retrained and gave these people a skill that AI can't do so well as much as a human can. So it's an opportunity to level up, to actually bring a better quality of experience and more human connection that this world is craving more and more.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the assignment too, right? It's the co-creation.
Yeah,
That only happens when we have that human to human connection
yeah,
where we're both fully present and available
yeah,
to what it is that we're collaborating on,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, and so I definitely, something I talk about a lot as a leadership coach is like, you really want to know who you are? Go through a storm, go through a disruption. That adversity is always that hidden opportunity for growth, dressed up and disguised as adversity. And I think this is anybody who has had a victim mindset before, which is it's totally normal when you're living in an unconscious way, right? And the tidal wave hits you and you feel a lot of pain and disruption. If you've been going outside in your whole life, for you to point to the outside, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
but we're talking about that as a wake-up call, right? As a call to consciousness, because you have no choice but to awaken when you're going through a disruption and be fully present because it's time to make new choices.
Absolutely. And it's recognizing, I think it's in a disruption we realize where our experience is coming from. Because it's very easy in a disruption to blame the circumstances for our experience. But that's when we're looking in the wrong place because
Mhm,
nothing actually makes us feel anything. We
mhm,
live in the experience of our thinking. It's our thinking creates our conscious experience in this moment, nothing else. And the more we can see that, we stop looking in the wrong place for the answer. The more we
mhm,
see that, we can stop trying to think our way to clarity, and then our mind can settle and we get a different perspective.
mhm,
And I think it's realizing that disruption is now part of the norm.
mhm,
We live in such a volatile state of the world and in all sorts of ways, kind of with nations, war, with the environment, with AI. It's just change and disruption is now the norm. So it means we're constantly creating. We have to constantly creating. It's not about maintaining, it's creating. And that's we do need that conscious connection. We need to be alive to the moment in our creative energy, not our fearful maintaining energy.
mhm. Yeah, I think that this is obviously where you and I align in terms of seeing the opportunities dressed up and disguised as adversity right now in terms of AI, right? In terms of this disruption. And Yeah, we were also talking off air. I was curious. I was like, Russell, do you think we have to go through the disruption in order to come back home to the helm? Because I work with high achievers who are massively outside in, right? In their mindset strategies in terms of how they lead themselves. And so, yeah, I'd love to talk about this because you and I obviously have been through those cataclysmic level
Mm.
disruptions, and it helped us move from why is this happening to me to why is this showing up for me? So that we can
Yeah.
find the gold buried
Yeah.
in the adversity. But what are your thoughts on that? Does it always have to come from the chokehold of disruption and pain?
I don't think it does. I mean, it can do. Obviously, it did for me. It did for you. And I think I look back, I was unconscious that I wasn't. I didn't give myself a therapist or a coach, and that was my turning point. And ever since I had always had a coach for myself, and to help me see, to guide me continue my journey of development and awareness and consciousness without requiring any kind of further major disruptions. So I don't think it's necessary to have a disruption. I think when you've got a guide, they can take you through raising consciousness, raising awareness, and more stronger self-leadership without needing that kind of major disruption in your life. So I don't think it's necessary if you've got the right guide to guide you to see some of our blind spots, to work through that, to come back home, to stop looking in the wrong direction. You can have a guide to do that. You don't need a big bump in the road to do that necessarily. But sometimes I think the universe gives us what we need, and I clearly wasn't seeing it. And then the bump in the road helped me wake me up to see, what I needed to see. And then I've always worked with someone since then to continue my growth and development. So I think in the same way, that's what I guess what I love what I do. You do what you do because you help people on their journey without needing the big crisis.
Helping the unconscious become conscious upstream. I always,
Exactly, it's going upstream. It's exactly that. I love that. I love there's a story where there's a guy walking down along a riverbank and he sees someone pulling these people from the river. And he's swimming out, rescuing people from the river, pulling them one by one from the river. So this guy joins in, he jumps into the river and continues to help pull these people from the river. And the first person doing that suddenly disappeared. And the man that would join him saying, "Where's he gone? How can he desert these people in the hour of need, but continue to pull these people from the river?" And the gradual number of people needed saving reduced, then it stopped. Then the man reappeared. So he said to him, "Where'd you go? How can you desert these people in the hour of need?" He said, they didn't desert them, didn't leave them. I went further upstream to find out why they're falling in the river in the first place. And too often our attempts at kind of even leadership are too far downstream.
Mhm.
Our self-leadership is often too far downstream. It's going further upstream to see what's creating our experience, to see what is our connection to ourselves, what is our relationship with ourselves, who do we say we are, and bring that different sense of being into everything we do.
Yeah, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, is what
Yeah.
that
Mm,
metaphor
mm,
beautifully demonstrates, right? And
mm,
yeah, I'm congratulating the leaders that are coming to this table when they walk through my door now, if they're not already in the tumult, right? Because that's always an easier point of entry than when you're actually in the tumult, in the crisis.
yeah. Yeah.
There's so many other factors that you have to manage if you're already
Mm,
in the tumult and the crisis. And
mm,
so that's why I'm really just trying to bring as much consciousness to this collective as I can in regards to it's not a matter of if you're going to get disrupted by AI, it's a matter of when. It's predictable.
yeah.
And if it's
Yeah.
predictable, maybe we want to start to crank the high beams in
Mm,
terms of like where I'm
mm,
at and maybe where the opportunities are for me to prepare in a way where I'm actually ready to catch those waves
mm,
and
yeah.
ride them,
Yeah.
versus being washed up to shore and
Mm,
trying to pick yourself back up and piece
yeah. Yeah.
yourself back together.
And I think it really is a massive opportunity. I think it's everyone an opportunity to elevate themselves. Everyone. I think everyone's a leader. And I think a job of a leader is to draw out the leadership in everyone else, draw out all the leadership within their team. I think everyone has a ability to be a leader. When we come back to that alignment within ourselves, we stop the busy mind and come back to something deeper than ourselves. And I think when everyone's elevated, there's massive opportunity. What can we create when everyone is in their alignment?
Hmm.
And everyone has their zone. Nothing comes to mind is about zone of genius. It's about conscious leadership is recognizing who are we, what do we bring, and we'll have our zone of genius. Not trying to be all things to all people because you think we should. Not trying to be the leader you think you should be. Be the
Hmm.
leader you are, that you're born to be. I worked with one, global PR executive. It's helping to see. She said, "Oh, I realized, what I love about my job is bringing the sense of belonging." She wants to create the organization like a family. People love being there. Yeah, she's great at PR strategy and all that. She can do all that, but her real zone of genius is the culture she's creating from the top. And when she saw that and recognized that, she got really excited about it. And she leans into that. That's her zone of genius and claims this is my real asset at the top.
Yeah, I think that's what you and I share. Once you actually get a taste of authorizing as the adult, right? And thus validating what's actually naturally occurring in your sweet spot
Yes.
in terms of what you bring to this world that is valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where the magic happens, right?
Yeah.
That's where you unlock that flow state,
Yeah.
and that's where it feels effortless,
Yeah.
even if you're surfing waves,
Yeah. Yeah.
and in terms of the intensity of
Yeah.
what's changing. I just think
Yeah.
like that's the best leadership strategy of them all because
Yeah.
that's where you get to thrive. And if the
Yeah.
model carries the most weight, maybe we want to bring some thriving energy to the helm right about now so we can authorize that for our people too. Because I actually predict this is what is going to actually enhance the necessity of leaders being authentic. I don't,
Yeah.
this is the difference between us and AI, by the way, is like I think we're all starting to calibrate that a little deeper in our consciousness, right? In terms of that
Totally.
authenticity piece.
Authenticity and difference and celebrating that, acknowledging that. I saw something on X recently. Someone said, put this question into AI and see what answer you get. And it was asking AI to give a name to a male kind of fictional character. And 99% said Marcus. AI given the same name, the same answer to 99% of people. There's no difference. It thinks the same, even though we might feed information about our own role or who we are, but essentially it thinks the same wherever you are. And it's claiming who we are, and we're all different. And I first became a coach, I struggled with, well, I'm not this kind of high energy Tony Robbins kind of coach. I'm softer, quiet. Is that okay? I don't know. And a friend of mine said, look, your loving presence changes lives. Just acknowledge that. Just be you. And it goes, oh yeah, it's okay to be me and lead in the way I am. And that's great. And we all have our way of being. And so that's authentic. It's being aligned and authentic rather than being the leader we think we should be. That's just, and people can sense that. You're not out of alignment. There's an energy to it. People pick up on the energy. As a leader, you walk into a room, people can sense the energy that you're bringing into the room. And that energy is whether you're in alignment or not.
So powerful. And I think what's really cool about that trust fall into your sweet spot and that alignment is that's the best you're ever going to do. And once you crack the code on that, right, in terms of where I'm playing to the things that are naturally occurring, in terms of my bag of tricks, my best skills, talent, strengths, attributes, the things that uniquely make me me, don't you
Mm.
find like that's where the best outcomes naturally
Yeah,
occur?
yeah, absolutely. We make it hard for ourselves by being who we think we
Right?
should be, and we're missing a trick.
I
Actually, there is an
agree.
ease to it. There's an
Hmm.
ease to it. It doesn't have to be difficult. So we often try
Mm-mm.
too hard. It can be easier.
In fact, if it is feeling difficult, that's a
Listen,
red flag on the
yeah,
play,
yeah,
trying to bring your conscious
yeah,
awareness to it,
yeah,
because that in and of itself shows you that you're out of alignment.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
curious, the last place I want to land this plane are what are your predictions for the future of leadership? Since we're talking about AI and some of our thoughts in and around why it's coming and what do you think? What do you envision in terms of the next 5 to 10 years? How is this going to change the way we play the game, do you think?
I do really believe, and I'm not just saying this is what I do, but, and who I'm speaking to, I do believe there's going to be more focus on conscious leadership. I think this conscious leadership is going to really shine. I think people will see the difference because AI will take a lot away the decision making at a lower level, the unconscious, the cognitive thinking that can come into leadership. AI can create a strategy, but it can't create a culture. that's got to come from the way we show up as leaders, who we show up as in our way of being. And I think there's going to be so much more focus on connection, human connection. I think people are craving more human connection. You see it outside of the world of business, and we see AI taking over, Instagram feeds, what's real, what's not. People are starting to, what is real? They want a sense of something real. We've gone through COVID and a lot of work stuff going online. Now people are craving some more real life engagement. So I think people realizing that human connection is becoming more and more important in life as a whole, but particularly in leadership. And I think there will be more of a awareness of the power of conscious leadership because, say, AI is going to force us to raise our game.
Ooh, I love it. I absolutely agree. Yeah, I think it's calling us back to our humanity,
Yes.
and learning how
Yeah.
to trust that when we really understand our basic human being needs, connection being one of the biggest.
Yeah.
We still put people in isolation to torture them in some parts of this planet still. Like we
Yeah.
can't survive that
No.
isolation, and that's what the pandemic taught us,
Yeah.
right? But I think
Yeah.
that obviously AI is really going to start to put the magnifying glass on
I
that
think so.
because
Yeah.
of all the things we've spoken about today.
Yeah.
Russell,
Yeah.
I have to have you back down the line to see how some of these predictions play out. I've enjoyed this interview so much, and I know our audience will too. Where can they find you if they're curious to learn more about your mission, about you, or to have a conversation perhaps?
They can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Russell Davis. That's SSLLDAVIS on LinkedIn or in my website, russell-davis.com.
Amazing. And we'll make sure we put all that in the show notes because I know you're going to want to connect with Russell. I am so excited to have you here helping me make this case for conscious leadership. I've been feeling this call for the last couple of, years. It's really been building inside of me. And yeah, it's so lovely to connect with a human being and soul who
Mhm.
feels that intuitively too.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
thank you, sir, for helping me make this case.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for your doing, raising the awareness of the need. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to leave our folks with today, sir?
Okay, the one that comes to mind and the way it comes to mind is what would you do even today if you could trust yourself more?
Ooh, even just that is going to stimulate so much curiosity in the consciousness of our listeners. Speaking of our listeners, Russell and I are so grateful that you took the time to tune in today and hear about all of our downloads and envisioning in regards to conscious leadership and why we believe this revolution has begun. This I do believe has become the table stakes for a leader's development here in 2026. And it is definitely how we're going to change the way this game is being played, which you heard it from him. He backs me up, is the purpose of it all is the assignment. Thank you, everybody. Please remember to hit like and subscribe on your way out the locker room doors today. And to learn more about all the creative concoctions I've got going on over at Team Elite in and around conscious leadership development and training, you can find that over at the website, elitehighperformance.com. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you next week.